committees.
And you can have it all with your membership in the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce.
This is Strictly Business, presented by the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. Sponsored in part by the law offices of Young Wooldridge, San Joaquin Community Hospital.
And welcome back to Strictly Business. I'm Nathan Ollie, Manager of Government Affairs for the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. And we are joined now by Jeremy Tobias. He's the Executive Director of the Community Action Partnership of Kern, as well as Emilio Wagner. He's the Director of Operations. And they're going to take a look with us today at benefits of owning versus leasing commercial space for nonprofit groups. Guys, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us, Nathan.
Sure.
Great to be here this morning.
Great to have you. So let's talk a little bit, for a nonprofit, what are some of the benefits of owning your own space?
Well, I think, for a nonprofit, we're a rather large nonprofit. We're a little bit unusual in our scope and size. We have over 700 employees and dozens of programs. But I think in our case, for a nonprofit, it's nice to have the stability of ownership. It's always nice to own property. You have control over all aspects of the property and what you use the property for and how long you're going to be there, and it gives you a certain sense of stability and easiness about that.
Okay. And now, are there some other benefits such as tax breaks, things like that, for owning your own building?
Yes, there is. Actually, as a nonprofit, we are exempt from most property taxes. The 1% assessment, Prop 13 assessment, we are exempt as a nonprofit. We do pay some fees and other things that we're not exempt from, but we're exempt from most of the property taxes. So the nice thing about ownership is when you lease, usually that's the owner's still paying property tax, and that gets passed through the lease. So you do save in that cost in that respect. So that is an added bonus to owning as a nonprofit.
Okay. Now, what about on the other side, maybe a benefit of say, leasing a building for a nonprofit?
Well, for nonprofits, I think ownership carries some risks in for every business, and every real estate transaction. There's always risks that the property, the value may go down over time, or you may end up with a large, a repair item or things like that. So for nonprofits, oftentimes leasing is the desirable option. I mean, it gives you a little more flexibility. You don't have long-term commitments. The property owner can take care of the maintenance for you, things that you normally don't want to worry about if you're a nonprofit.
Okay. So similar to owning a home, it's, the benefits, you have to weigh which individual situation is right for you and make the decision.
Exactly. And that, in our case, we actually own and lease, depending on the situation.
So talking, since you brought it up, turning to your organization a little bit, how many properties does it take to accommodate all your programs? I know you have 700 employees countywide. How much property are we talking about?
We currently own or lease 84 properties in Kern County.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So all over, in pretty much any community in Kern County, you guys are represented.
Pretty much. We cover every square mile of Kern County. Kern County is huge.
Right.
Kern County is larger than some states, and we cover every inch of Kern County. We have properties throughout Kern County that we both own and lease.
Okay. So of those, maybe a rough percentage own versus lease, things like that. And where did the funding come from? How do you go about securing funding for something like that?
Well, Emilio, what's our ratio between owning and leasing?
It would be around about 80% leased and about 20% owned, probably somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So when, as a group, how do you make a decision on a particular site? Say if you're going into Tehachapi or you're going into Ridgecrest or you're going into California City, how do you determine we're going to lease or we're going to buy? Is it just what's available, that kind of thing, or is there some kind of standard criteria that you use?
Yeah, there's multiple criteria we follow. In some cases, especially in the smaller towns, what we'll do is it depends on what the market's going to allow. So some of the smaller towns we go to, we may not be able to find anything that fits our needs on a lease. And maybe it's only something that's for sale and we end up buying it just to get into that market, or vice versa, the other way around. A lot of times with our Head Start program, we like to be on school grounds, and so what we'll do is we'll purchase a modular building that we own, and we'll lease land from the school district. We'll take a small corner of the playground or something and fence it off and put a classroom on a ground lease. So, it depends on the situation.
Okay.
and the program we happen to, the way the program's going to operate. So there's multiple scenarios that, we see in our business and we run with each site.
So, and just real quick, what for those that aren't familiar with the Head Start program, how does that work?
Well, Head Start is a pre-K child care program, 0 to 5. We serve Kern County. We're the Head Start provider here in Kern County. And because we are tied somewhat to education and schools, in many of the smaller communities, we prefer that our Head Start sites be on school grounds. That way, the family members and the children become familiar with that school, and then it's an easy handoff from us to the school district in kindergarten. So in many of our smaller communities and in several locations here in Bakersfield, we have land leases with the school district, and then we bring in a modular unit that we own, and
Okay.
we set the modular on the land lease.
So, what are some of the, since we're looking at the modulars, and I remember out in Ridgecrest, where I was from before, there was a modular classroom set up there on a school site for the Head Start program. So, now, what are some of the considerations that a nonprofit would look at when looking at a modular? I mean, is it just something that you can drop in and it's ready to go? Compare it, if you would, maybe to more of a traditional building.
Sure. Emilio's familiar with this. He has to plan our modular layouts
Oh, okay.
for us.
Well, it's nice with a modular building because the amount of time it takes to build it it goes quicker with setting a modular. While you're doing the site work, you can have the building built at the same time. Once you're done with the site work, you just set in the building and you're ready to go. So compared to a stick frame building, you got to wait through both processes. So rather than being concurrent, you have the site development, and once the site development's done, then you can start building a stick frame building. So the amount of time it takes to build the building is considered, and you also the cost too, because when a modular building is built off site, there's usually no prevailing wage associated with that, which we have to worry about
Sure.
being federally funded.
Now, what about the life of a modular building?
They're-
Comparable?
They are comfortable. They're getting a lot better now. They're now considered permanent buildings, so they've had about 50-year life, and they're getting better and better as time goes on.
Okay. Now, from an operational standpoint, and you said you had 84 properties, I believe, across Kern County. Talk about some of the challenges of having to manage 84 properties for one agency in different communities, in different climates. I mean, I'm sure your property in Fraser Park, you would manage differently than your project in Ridgecrest, just because of the different climates you have to deal with. So, talk about some of the challenges you're looking at there.
Well, with it's the distance is what's a big issue. Coordinating that, having a good system in place with work orders makes it a lot easier. Having contractors that are set up to take care of emergency needs is a big benefit as well. So it's just scheduling and the distance between the locations really what the big issue is for us.
And I think that's an important point. With serving the entire county so large, we rely very heavily on local contractors, independent contractors, to help us out.
Okay.
So for, whether it's, landscaping maintenance or plumbing issues or things like that, we do rely on private enterprise very heavily.
Okay. So, looking at your agency as a whole, I understand that you're celebrating 50 years here in 2015. Any plans for expansion?
Well, yes, actually, we've been serving Kern County for 50 years. This is our 50th year anniversary. And we're looking at some additional programs. We are working on a partnership, an early Head Start partnership that we're working in conjunction with Bakersfield College and Kern County Superintendent of Schools Office. We're going to be announcing that very soon. That's an exciting project. We're also looking at some possible expansion projects in our WIC program, which is Women, Infant, and Children, which may, take us outside of Kern County, and then also we're looking at some Head Start opportunities outside of Kern County as well.
Okay, so possibly some more real estate coming into your
Yes.
into your agency's fold. So, okay, well, Jeremy Tobias, Emilio Wagner of the Community Action Partnership of Kern, we appreciate you coming in and giving us a little bit of insight on how nonprofits handle the perils of the real estate market. So, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
All right. We'll be right back after this with more Strictly Business.